The worst Cy Young winner ever is not Rick Porcello. In fact, the worst Cy Young winner ever isn't even a starter. The worst Cy Young winner ever wasn't even the most valuable reliever that season. So, who is the worst Cy Young winner ever? Well, that must be Steve Bedrosian in 1987.
On the seventh pitch, Harper hits one in the air, left center field, back it goes! Harper, the swing of his life!
Steve Bedrosian was entering his sixth year of his career and his second after being traded from the Braves to the Philadelphia Phillies. The season previous, he had put up a 3.39 ERA through 90 innings of work with 29 saves, which is a good example of his career up to this point, solid, just like his nickname Bedrock. But in 1987 was his breakout season. He led the league in saves with 40, and he had a 2.83 ERA through 89 innings of work. He would make his first All-Star game and only All-Star game of his career, and of course, he would win his only Cy Young of his career. But why is he the worst Cy Young winner? Well, one aspect why he's the worst Cy Young winner ever is the fact that he's a relieving pitcher. I personally don't think relievers should win Cy Young, but that is not the problem. The problem is the fact that all the other relievers to win Cy Young had sub 2.5 ERA seasons. Meanwhile, Bedrosian put up a 2.83 ERA, the worst out of any reliever to win the award. He also might not have been the best reliever that season. That year, Cubs closer and Hall of Famer Lee Smith had a higher ERA at 3.12, but he was more valuable in WAR and he had only 4 less saves than Bedrosian. Now let's look at the other Cy Young candidates. Only 2 points behind Bedrosian in the closest vote in Cy Young history was Cubs starter Rick Sutcliffe, who led the league in wins with 18, but had a high ERA at 3.68. But remember, this was a time where wins mattered more than most other statistics. Third in Cy Young voting was Rick Ruschel, who was traded between the Pirates and the Giants in 1987. He had an ERA of 3.09 while leading the league in complete games, shutouts, and WHIP. This was his second time finishing third in Cy Young in his career. Fourth in Cy Young was Orel Hershiser of the Los Angeles Dodgers, who would win Cy Young the next season. But in 1987, he would have a 3.06 ERA, while leading the league in innings pitched with 264.2. Fifth in Cy Young voting was former Triple Crown winner Dwight Gooden of the New York Mets. That year, he had a 3.21 ERA through 179 innings. Out of these top 5 Cy Young voters, the most deserving seems to be Rick Ruschel, but he isn't even the most deserving winner. You might have noticed how nobody in the top 5 led the league in ERA. The man who did has had multiple Cy Young awards stolen from him. Of course, that man is Nolan Ryan, who in 1987 for the Houston Astros had a 2.76 ERA, which led the league. He also led the league in strikeouts and ERA+. And Nolan Ryan did this all as a 40-year-old. Incredible. This is why he's one of the best pitchers of all time. Now looking at this was of course a time when Cy Young voting was broken, where pitching wins were more valuable than most other statistics. So, why did Steve Bedrosian win the Cy Young in 1987? Well, the writers believed that because he had 40 saves and the Phillies only had 80 wins that season, that Bedrosian was partly responsible for half of the Phillies' victories that season. He also became the fastest in history to reach 30 saves in a season, accomplishing this feat on July 31st. And also that year, there really was no clear dominant starting pitcher or relieving pitcher. Yet, still, he doesn't seem deserving enough of the Cy Young Award that season. Steve Bedrosian wouldn't pitch until May of 1988 after walking pneumonia put him on the injured list to start the season. This was a sign of things to come for Bedrosian that year, only putting up 28 saves with a 3.75 ERA in 674 innings to follow up his Cy Young. In September of that year, he would break the career save record for the Phillies with his 95th with the team, passing Tug McGraw at the time. Despite this, in December, the Phillies traded for Expos reliever Jeff Perret, who had a 2.76 ERA through 91 innings in 1988. Because of this trade, many thought Bedrosian was going to be traded as well, with Bedrosian complaining about his lack of opportunities to pitch the previous season. But despite all this, Bedrosian would stay with the team in 1988. But 88 would be even worse. After allowing 4 runs in 2 innings in June, he'd be traded to the San Francisco Giants. Despite his rough start with a 4 ERA with the Phillies, he would end the season with a 2.87 ERA through 84 innings in San Francisco with 23 saves. The next 2 seasons he would spend with the Giants and the Twins, putting up above 4 ERA seasons in both. Eventually, he was forced into retirement due to health issues and a now 80-mile-per-hour fastball. He would actually be able to return a couple years later to the original team that he started his career with, the Atlanta Braves, in 1993, but he would never be able to capture the same fire he had during his 1987 season. His career would end in 1995. This video is not meant to be a knock at Steve Bedrosian. Steve Bedrosian was a solid closer and one of the best Philadelphia Phillies relievers in history, leading my favorite team in career saves until Jose Mesa passed him in 2003. Instead, this video is meant to be a knock at the Cy Young voters of the past, how the system was broken. So next time someone brings up Rick Porcello's Cy Young, tell them about Steve Bedrosian.